Heaven has paused for a moment, and everything around you slows as if time itself bows in reverence. This is not coincidence. You are standing in the space between endings and new beginnings, where the old weight finally breaks off and the air becomes lighter around you. The very atmosphere recognizes that something in your spirit has shifted, that the war you've been fighting has reached its divine conclusion. You have overcome. You can feel it. Can't you? That subtle quiet after a long storm. The kind that doesn't scream or roar, but rests upon you like morning light. For too long, you thought God had gone silent, when in truth, He was simply waiting for the right moment to reveal that you made it. The battle that once defined your nights is no longer your story. What once consumed your thoughts now trembles at the sound of your name. There were nights you cried until your body had no strength left. Days where your faith felt paper-thin, and you questioned if you were even seen at all. Yet here you are still standing, still breathing, still chosen. The pain you endured was not wasted. It became the soil that nurtured your endurance, the fire that purified your faith, and the testimony that now burns like a beacon to others still wandering in the dark. Listen closely. Heaven is not congratulating you because life suddenly became easy. Heaven is congratulating you because you refused to give up when hell itself expected you to break. You chose faith over fear. You chose to keep walking even when the path disappeared beneath your feet. And now, divine confirmation arrives. You will never face that again. Every time you thought the enemy had won, God was actually rearranging the pieces. You were hidden, refined, and taught to see beyond the temporary. The silence that once scared you was where heaven was writing your victory decree. The waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. You were being trained to carry something greater than what was lost. Now, the same voice that called the stars into being whispers to you, "Well done." You survived what was designed to destroy you. You have overcome. This isn't about luck, timing, or coincidence. It's divine orchestration. There was a reason you didn't fit in. There was a reason certain doors closed, certain people left, and certain seasons ended abruptly. Every disappointment was divine redirection, steering you toward a purpose too great to explain. The light within you terrifies darkness because it cannot comprehend how you still shine after all you've been through. You carry something that pain couldn't steal: divine endurance. And now, that same endurance becomes your authority. You no longer speak as one who hopes for deliverance, but as one who embodies it. Heaven recognizes your name. Hell fears it. It is written in the first letter of John, chapter 5, verse 4. For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. That is your confirmation. You are rising again, not in the fragile way you did before, but in full strength, renewed by divine power. The very wind that once opposed you now lifts you. The storm that was sent to bury you became your proving ground. You don't need to explain yourself to those who doubted your peace will speak louder than their disbelief. So stand tall. You have crossed a threshold few ever reach. The season of constant warfare has ended, and a new frequency of rest and favor begins to unfold around you. You will notice doors opening easily, connections flowing naturally, and provision coming without strain. These are signs that the atmosphere has changed. Heaven's alignment is in motion. Now take a deep breath. This is your moment to release gratitude into the air. You've cried enough tears of pain. Now it's time for tears of relief, of realization that God never abandoned you for a second. You were carried the entire time. And this message, yes, this one is your divine proof that heaven still speaks your name. If this word has found you, it's because it was meant to. You didn't stumble upon it by scrolling. Heaven pressed pause on everything else to reach you right here, right now. You've walked through fire, and the scent of smoke is no longer on you. Your story shifts from survival to glory. Lift your head, chosen one. The old chains are gone. The old pain no longer fits who you've become. Step forward and let the world see what God does with a life that refuses to quit. Comment 777 below as a prophetic act to declare, I have overcome, and I will never face that again. Like, share, and subscribe to stay connected. Your next victory word is already on its way. Your victory is not silent. Heaven echoes it across eternity. Walk boldly. Now this is your new beginning. Sealed in glory, wrapped in grace, and unstoppable by anything formed against you. You survived what was sent to break you. The proof of divine power is written not in your comfort, but in your endurance. Every wound that once bled has now become a scar of wisdom, a testimony carved into your soul. You have walked through the valley of betrayal, rejection, and loneliness, and yet you did not die there. What others called your downfall was really the furnace that shaped your unshakable faith. There were moments when you felt the weight of life pressing so heavily that even breathing seemed like a battle. Nights when your prayers were whispers trembling in the dark, unanswered and echoing back at you. But what you could not see then was that God had stationed angels around you. While the world mocked your weakness, heaven marveled at your resilience. Every tear that fell was recorded, and every sigh of surrender was heard in the throne room of grace. You were never fighting alone. Though you felt unseen, heaven had eyes fixed on you. Every attack you endured was measured. Every hardship allowed only long enough to draw out what was eternal in you. The pain you faced was never proof of abandonment. It was the evidence that your life carried a higher purpose. There are some storms that come not to destroy but to reveal that you were born with wings. Now you understand. What was meant for evil has been transfigured into good. The betrayal that cut you the deepest became the place where truth took root. The rejection that burned like fire stripped away false identities until only the purest version of you remained. You no longer fear loss, because you've discovered that what is divine cannot be stolen. You learned that endings are not the absence of God, they are His signature on the next chapter. The seasons that once made no sense now reveal their purpose. Every delay, every disappointment, every no that hurt you was actually God's mercy saying, not this, not now, not there. You were being rerouted away from destruction you could not see. What looked like divine silence was actually divine strategy. You were being preserved, not punished. It's strange how pain becomes a teacher. You once begged God to remove the burden, but now you thank Him for the strength it birthed in you. You learned that prayer isn't always answered by escape. Sometimes it's answered by endurance. You discovered that God's protection sometimes looks like isolation, and His love sometimes looks like pruning. And though your heart cracked under the pressure, something eternal was born from those fractures, an unbreakable faith that glows even in the dark. Every season of struggle taught you something about who God is and who you are. You learned that His faithfulness doesn't depend on your feelings. and that grace doesn't always look like comfort. You learned that miracles often arrive disguised as messes, and that the deepest healing comes from the very wounds you once tried to hide. You survived not because you were strong, but because His hand never let go. Every breath you take now is a declaration that the grave lost its claim. The version of you that entered the storm did not make it out, something greater did. You have emerged, refined, anchored, and wiser. The same fire that threatened to consume you has made you shine. As the Apostle Paul declares in the letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 37, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." That's the truth written over your life now, more than a survivor, more than a conqueror. You've not only endured, you've transcended. You've proven that faith doesn't crumble under pressure. It multiplies. You have moved from pleading for deliverance to walking in dominion. The chains that once bound you have turned into reminders that nothing can hold a soul set free by grace. There is a quiet strength in you now, one that doesn't need to prove, perform, or explain. You know what it means to lose everything and still find peace. You know what it feels like to stand alone and yet feel surrounded by divine presence. You know the sacred rhythm of pain turning into purpose. And that knowledge, that holy awareness, cannot be taken from you. When you look back now, you can smile without bitterness, because even the hardest moments were folded into heaven's design. You were not destroyed, you were rebuilt. You are not fragile, you are fortified. Every scar is a doorway of testimony. Every memory now redeemed by meaning. And though the road behind you was rough, the one ahead is blessed. You have nothing left to prove, because your endurance is already your evidence. Heaven saw you survive what should have ended you, and that is why the next season opens with favor. The war that once raged inside you is over, and peace takes its place. You are proof that grace wins. Every tear you shed became a weapon. The very thing that the enemy thought would drown you has turned into the river that now carries your anointing. Pain, when surrendered to God, transforms into power. You no longer cry out of weakness, your tears are intercession. Your brokenness is language. Your silence is warfare. Heaven heard every sob that escaped your chest when no one else noticed. And not one of those tears was wasted. There are moments when grief feels unbearable, when your chest tightens and your prayers are wordless. Yet that is exactly where divine strength is born. You learned how to fight in the dark. You learned how to worship when everything felt empty. And in that hidden place, your tears watered the seeds of destiny. What was meant to destroy you instead built the foundation of your calling. The world sees tears as defeat. Heaven sees them as strategy. Because every time you wept but refused to walk away, you declared war on hopelessness. Every time you wiped your face and stood again, you sent tremors through the realm of darkness. Your tears were not signs of fragility, they were evidence of perseverance. Sacred proof that your spirit refused to die. Do you realize now that your tears had power? They carried prayers you didn't even have the strength to speak. When you thought you were falling apart, you were actually being rebuilt. One tear at a time. Each drop carried DNA from both your suffering and your faith, blending into something unshakable, a faith that cannot be bought, imitated, or destroyed. In those hidden nights, you weren't just surviving, you were interceding for your own future. You were aligning with heaven's agenda without even knowing it. Sometimes God doesn't need words from you. He just needs your surrender. He can read the language of your tears, and he responds with mercy that reshapes the future. Every tear that fell became instruction. Each one taught you to trust when logic failed, to believe when nothing looked promising. The pain you endured trained your spirit to see beyond the natural and to sense when heaven was near, even in silence. Now, that discernment is your power, the very gift that pain planted in you. You see, there is beauty in the way God redeems sorrow. What you thought was the end was actually the forging of your authority. The empathy you now carry, the compassion that flows through you, it was born through your tears. You can now see what others can't, feel what others ignore, because you have walked through the fire and learned the language of pain. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Heaven never overlooked a single drop. Every one of those tears became an offering, an act of worship far more powerful than applause or ritual. They reached the throne of God as incense, rising from the ashes of your suffering. And now, the fragrance of your endurance fills the heavens. You have emerged from those nights with an authority that cannot be shaken. The enemy has no language for a person who praises through pain. You've learned to bless the name of the Lord even with tear-stained hands. And that is the mark of the chosen. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what came out of you in the storm. The tears that once symbolized weakness have become the oil of your anointing. They shine on your spirit like diamonds forged under pressure. Now, when you speak, there's weight in your words, because they are baptized in authenticity. Heaven recognizes that tone. It's the sound of someone who didn't just read about victory, but lived it. When you cry now, it's not out of fear, it's gratitude. Gratitude that God turned every valley into a lesson, every heartbreak into a doorway, every tear into a seed. And those seeds have begun to bloom in your life. You'll notice it in your peace, in your discernment, in the way your heart stays soft, even after betrayal. That softness is not weakness, it's divine strength wrapped in mercy. So remember this, your tears were never wasted. They baptized you for the life you are walking into now. The same tears that once fell in silence are now the testimony that will echo across generations. Comment "I rise again," not as a phrase, but as a declaration. Let it be your signature of faith. When you write it, you're not just typing words, you're testifying that the same God who counted your tears has crowned your endurance. When you comment "I rise again," you're not repeating a slogan, you're sealing your testimony in the Spirit. Those 3 words carry resurrection power, declaring that what once buried you now becomes the ground from which you rise in glory. God hid you for a season. You thought you were being forgotten, but heaven was building a wall of protection around you. You weren't abandoned, you were being preserved. The silence, the isolation, the moments when no one called, when doors stayed closed, when everything felt still, those were not empty seasons. They were sacred ones. They were seasons of divine concealment, where God shielded you from attacks you didn't even know existed. You may have asked, "Why is no one seeing me? Why am I invisible?" But invisibility was mercy. You were hidden because premature exposure would have destroyed what God was still preparing inside you. Just as a seed must remain buried before it breaks forth into bloom, you too needed to stay underground, unseen. uncelebrated. Misunderstood until your roots were deep enough to carry the weight of your future. You see, not everyone was meant to walk with you into the next season. Some connections would have drained your oil. Some environments would have suffocated your purpose. So, heaven removed your access, not to punish you, but to protect what was still forming. What you called isolation was actually insulation. God wrapped you in silence so that you could hear his whisper more clearly than the noise of the world. When nothing seemed to move, God was moving everything. He was pruning you quietly, stripping away distractions, teaching you the difference between attention and anointing. You learned that applause can be dangerous when it arrives too soon. You learned that hidden seasons are not empty, they are holy ground. In them, heaven rewrites your foundations. Think of Moses, hidden in the reeds before leading nations. Think of David, anointed in secret while the crowd celebrated someone else. Think of Jesus himself, growing in obscurity for 30 years before his voice shook the world. You are in good company. Hiddenness is not the absence of destiny. It is the preparation for revelation. The silence taught you to depend on presence, not noise. You began to sense God in the smallest moments, a breath of peace, a whisper of assurance, the stillness between your thoughts. And in that stillness, your heart learned a new rhythm, trust. You didn't need to see the outcome anymore. You just needed to stay faithful to the process. It is in those quiet, hidden spaces that your character matures. The seed doesn't argue with the soil. It trusts that darkness will one day turn to light. Likewise, you have learned to trust the timing of God. What is forming in secret will always manifest in strength. When you finally emerge, you won't need to force your place. The world will recognize what heaven has already approved. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. That is the promise that sustained you when you couldn't see your way forward. God was not only beside you, he was ahead of you, arranging details, aligning opportunities, and preparing hearts to receive what you would one day carry. Even when you doubted, his plan never wavered. The hiding was temporary, but the fruit of it will last forever. Now, as you look back, you can see why certain things didn't work out, why certain people left, and why silence lingered longer than expected. You realize that what felt like a pause was actually progress in disguise. Hidden seasons produce clarity, and clarity is priceless. It saves you from chasing what doesn't belong to you and equips you to recognize what truly does. There is a peace that grows in secret places, a peace that is not shaken by applause or diminished by rejection. It's the kind of peace that says, I don't need to prove myself, I just need to walk in my purpose. That's what hiddenness teaches you. Your worth isn't measured by visibility, but by alignment with divine will. The time in the shadows was not wasted. It was your chrysalis, a sacred cocoon where transformation worked quietly beneath the surface. And when the time was right, heaven began to peel back the layers, revealing what had been maturing in stillness all along. You emerged not bitter, not restless, but ready. What once felt like confinement was actually protection from spiritual contamination. You were spared from unnecessary battles, from counterfeit alliances, from distractions dressed as destiny. God hid you so that when you stepped forward, You would be pure in purpose and precise in obedience. You would no longer be moved by opinion, only by instruction. And now, the season of concealment has done its work. You have been refined by solitude, strengthened by silence, and purified by patience. The darkness you endured was not the end, it was incubation. Everything you need has been growing quietly within you. And soon, what was hidden will be revealed in glory. You are beginning to see clearly now your true identity as the chosen. For so long, you questioned why your path was different, why the journey felt heavier for you than for others. But now the veil lifts, and you realize that it was never a punishment, it was preparation. You were being shaped for something holy, something eternal, something that carries weight in heaven. You were not made to blend in. You were made to carry light into places that others fear to go. Every battle that once broke you has now become your armor. Every loss that once emptied you has now become wisdom. You stand as living evidence that God still writes stories of redemption. The world may see just a person standing, but heaven sees a warrior crowned in invisible glory. You are a vessel chosen not for comfort, but for calling. Your difference is your divine fingerprint, a sign that you were never meant to follow the crowd, but to lead through example. You are chosen, not because you were the strongest, but because you were willing to be broken and still say yes. You carry heaven's DNA in your spirit, the courage to rise, the tenderness to love, and the fire to keep believing when all seems lost. That combination makes you unstoppable. When you walk into a room, darkness recognizes the authority you carry. When you speak, the unseen world listens. And though you may not fully grasp the weight of your calling, heaven has already crowned you for it. As the Apostle Peter wrote in his first letter, chapter 2, verse 9, "But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." Those words are not poetry, they are your reality. You were called out of darkness, not to hide your light, but to let it shine boldly. Your story, your journey, your scars, they are not random, they are sacred tools that heaven intends to use to awaken others. When you realize you are chosen, something inside you shifts. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging for belonging. You stop apologizing for being different. You begin to understand that being chosen sometimes means being misunderstood, because light cannot blend with shadows. You are meant to stand out, to radiate truth in a world that is starving for authenticity. And now, as you walk forward in this revelation, you carry responsibility, not the kind that crushes you, but the kind that fulfills you. The calling of a chosen one is to be a mirror of hope, a living reminder that God still redeems, restores, and rebuilds lives that the world gave up on. If this message touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you of who you are in God, take a moment to like and share. Each simple action is like throwing a pebble of light into a dark river. The ripples travel farther than you think. Someone you may never meet might find healing through your small act of faith. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not as a routine click, but as a symbolic act of staying connected to the flow of light that keeps speaking life into your spirit. Every time you return, it's another step into deeper revelation. Now, if your heart feels stirred beyond listening, if you sense a whisper inside saying, Give. Listen gently. To donate is not to pay for words, it's to pour oil into the lamp so the flame doesn't fade. It's a quiet partnership with heaven, saying, keep the light burning for others. Even the smallest drop of oil feeds the fire that helps someone else find their way home. But remember this, truth-giving is never demanded, it's invited. Whether your offering is a prayer, a share, or a seed, it carries the same fragrance before God. Each one keeps the flame alive. The goal has never been to take from you, it's to walk with you. Together, we are building an altar of words where weary hearts can rest, heal, and be reminded of who they are. So stand tall, chosen one. Like, share, subscribe, or give only as your heart leads you. Each gesture, whether visible or silent, becomes another candle in this expanding circle of light. Your faith has already proven that light wins. Now let your generosity in action, in kindness, in spirit, become one more reflection of the heaven that lives within you. Every time your light touches another soul, heaven takes notice. The ripple is real, a word shared, a seed sown, a small act of faith that multiplies beyond your sight. You are part of a divine chain reaction of hope. And as you continue to walk this path, remember, generosity isn't measured in amount, but in intention. What flows from your heart becomes eternal currency. When love fuels your giving, it echoes through eternity. And heaven always sends the light back to you multiplied. Chains shattered in silence. You didn't even realize the exact moment it happened. The shift was subtle, sacred, and almost unnoticeable. One morning, you simply woke up, and the weight you'd carried for years was no longer there. The pain that once controlled your breath had lost its grip. That's how freedom comes, sometimes quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night. You once thought deliverance would come with lightning and thunder, a dramatic moment that everyone could see. But heaven works differently. The loudest victories often happen in secret. It's in the quiet surrender, the whispered yes when no one is watching, that the strongest chains begin to fall. The world saw stillness. Heaven saw warfare. Every time you resisted going back to what broke you, every time you forgave instead of retaliating, every time you chose peace instead of bitterness, another link of that chain snapped. Deliverance is not always about shouting. Sometimes it's about not returning. You were breaking free long before you noticed. It began in your thoughts when you stopped replaying the past. It continued in your choices when you stopped giving energy to what drained your soul. It finished in your spirit when you realized that freedom is not a feeling. It's a decision. Heaven watched your transformation with quiet pride. You didn't need to announce it. Your peace spoke louder than any declaration. There's something powerful about a person who walks free without demanding attention. That is you now unbound, graceful, calm, carrying invisible victory like a crown. As the prophet Isaiah declared in the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 16, I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. That is what God has done for you, led you through unknown paths until chains broke not just from your hands, but from your heart. The places where you once stumbled are now the ground of your testimony. The silence was not empty, it was sacred. That's where God did his deepest work, in the quiet rooms of your soul, where no one clapped, no one saw, and yet heaven rejoiced. You learned that sometimes the most powerful yes to God is the one whispered through tears. The shackles of the past no longer fit the person you've become. You can't return to small spaces when your spirit has learned to breathe freely. You are no longer a prisoner of memory or regret. What once defined your nights has lost the power to dictate your days. Look at you now, steady, clear, and strong. You don't crave revenge, you crave peace. You no longer look for validation, you rest in truth. This is maturity, the fruit of your surrender. The world may not understand the serenity you carry, but heaven recognizes it as victory. And, though the process was hidden, the result is undeniable. You've crossed the invisible line between survival and freedom. You are not who you were, and you never will be again. That alone terrifies the darkness. Every time you choose not to speak from pain, not to act from anger, not to believe the lies that once defined you, heaven records another act of warfare won in silence. You're no longer fighting to escape, you're walking in the victory already given. When God breaks your chains, He doesn't just free you from bondage, He restores your dignity, your sound mind, your sense of purpose. You begin to see yourself through His eyes again, whole, radiant, redeemed. And that's what you are now, free. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer bound by what once controlled you. The silence that once scared you has become sacred ground, the very space where you met God face to face. If this word resonates in your soul, if you can feel the quiet confirmation stirring within, comment 888 below. Let it be your symbol of new beginnings, the number of infinite renewal, the divine rhythm of restoration. When you write it, you're not just typing a number, you're declaring to heaven, I am walking free, and I will never be bound again. When you comment 888, you're not just repeating a number, you're confirming your release in the spirit. Those digits carry prophetic meaning, new cycles, eternal beginnings, and divine restoration. It's heaven's way of echoing. The door that once held you is now sealed forever. Writing 888 is a declaration that freedom has found its permanent home in you. It's your signature of gratitude, your way of saying, God, I recognize what you've done in silence. Every keystroke becomes a whisper of worship, each one carrying the fragrance of victory. So, as you type 888, feel the weight lift again. Imagine light filling the spaces where fear once lived. You're not repeating a ritual, you're testifying to heaven's power. It's a personal altar built in the comment box, your silent shout of deliverance. The end of repeated battles has come. For years, it felt like the same storms returned, wearing new faces, familiar pain dressed in different circumstances. Every time you thought you had healed, another test appeared, and it seemed as though the cycle would never end. But now, something has shifted in the spirit. The loop has broken. The lesson has been learned. You will not be sent back to repeat what has already been conquered. There is a rhythm to heaven's training, until understanding takes root. The same situations resurface to expose what remains unhealed. But you have passed the test. The pattern served its purpose to refine you, not to punish you. The repetition was never God's cruelty. It was His mercy, ensuring that no wound remained open to be exploited again. You may not have realized it while walking through it, but each battle taught you something different. One taught patience, Another discernment. Another, the strength of silence. What you once saw as delay was really God teaching you spiritual fluency, the ability to recognize His movement even in contradiction. He has trained your senses to know when to fight, when to rest, and when to let go entirely. You no longer react the same way. The triggers that once caused chaos now find no response in you. That stillness within you is not numbness, it's mastery. You've learned that you don't need to engage in every battle to prove your strength. Some fights are invitations to retreat into peace, a peace that disarms the enemy more than any argument ever could. The end of repeated battles also means the end of striving. You have discovered that not every victory is loud. Sometimes victory is walking away without explanation, refusing to let old patterns pull you back. You've learned to identify when something is beneath your assignment and when it's time to move forward. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, verse 11, as a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. You have refused to return. You have chosen wisdom over emotion, maturity over reaction. That is why this cycle ends with you. It is no longer your portion to be caught in circles of confusion, fear, or regret. You have crossed the threshold into divine clarity. Your heart has grown wiser, your boundaries stronger, and your discernment sharper. You no longer need external confirmation to know when God is saying enough. You recognize the stillness that follows obedience, the peace that comes when a lesson is complete. Look at how far you've come. Once, you would have fought to explain yourself, to be understood, to justify your worth. Now, you rest in the knowledge that God sees, and that is enough. This evolution is holy. It is the fruit of battles fought in silence, of prayers whispered through exhaustion, of tears turned into understanding. You have entered a new level of authority. Because you didn't just survive the war, you learned the language of it. You can now discern early when something carries the same old spirit. And instead of engaging, you step aside. That is spiritual maturity, to walk away before the storm begins, not after it's over. The same devil that once tempted you with distraction now trembles, because he has lost access to your emotions. He can no longer bait you into chaos, because you have learned that peace is a weapon. You have become untouchable in the realm of consistency. You move differently now, not from fear, but from focus. The end of repeated battles also marks the beginning of new assignments. You are being trusted with greater things because you've proven faithful in smaller wars. God can now send you where peace is required, not where noise reigns. Your calmness is your authority, your gentleness, your sword. There is beauty in the way repetition once wore you down and now builds you up. You see patterns differently, not as prisons, but as teachers that have completed their lessons. The classroom has closed. The graduation has taken place. You are walking into new terrain with lessons tattooed on your spirit. And the most extraordinary part is that you don't even crave the old chaos anymore. Where others seek constant movement, you find comfort in quiet. You've realized that peace is not the absence of struggle, it's the maturity to recognize what no longer deserves your fight. The tests are finished. The lesson is complete. What once drained you has lost its authority, and you are finally free to move forward without looking back. Heaven has signed off on your release. The circle is broken, and a straight path now lies before you. The same roads that once led to heartbreak will now lead to purpose. The doors that once shut will now open with ease. Because the moment you stopped returning to what hurt you, heaven declared, "This one is ready." The end of repeated battles is not just relief, it's revelation. It is the recognition that peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. And you, chosen one, have become a guardian of peace. The tables have turned. The very ground that once shook beneath your feet now supports you with unwavering strength. The energy that once worked against you has reversed course, aligning with the rhythm of divine justice. Heaven has shifted the balance, and those who once watched your downfall are now witnessing your rising. You do not need to seek revenge. Time itself has become your advocate. God has rewritten the narrative without your intervention. Every whisper that tried to tarnish your name has been silenced by truth. Every false judgment has become fertilizer for your growth. The soil that buried you has turned into the very foundation that now elevates you. This is the mystery of divine reversal, the quiet way heaven restores balance. When you were misunderstood, it wasn't the end, it was the beginning of revelation. What was hidden in you has now been brought to light. Not through your defense, but through God's timing. You have learned that vindication is never rushed, because true justice requires maturity to handle it without pride. Now those who once underestimated you see that you carry something unshakable. You didn't win because you shouted louder. You won because you stayed silent when the storm demanded a reaction. You let God fight for you. And He did thoroughly, completely, and in a way that no human could orchestrate. There's a peace that comes with letting go of the need to prove yourself. It's the peace of watching everything once against you turn into something working for you. Heaven has turned enemies into teachers, pain into purpose, and wounds into wisdom. You no longer walk as a victim of circumstance, but as a vessel of divine order. We find in the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." That scripture breathes through your story. The harm that once seemed senseless has now become sacred. Every betrayal carved depth into your character, and every disappointment pushed you closer to alignment. God didn't allow it to break you. He allowed it to reveal who you truly were beneath the surface. The turning of tables is not loud, it's subtle, elegant, almost poetic. It happens when peace replaces anger, when grace silences bitterness, when you look at the people who hurt you and no longer feel the need for closure. That is how you know the shift has happened. The pain loses its language, and peace speaks instead. The turnaround is not just external, it's internal. You no longer see through the lens of loss, but through the eyes of purpose. You can look back on your most painful seasons and thank God for them. You understand now that without those moments, you wouldn't carry the strength, humility, and wisdom that you do today. This shift also means that the authority once stolen from you is being restored. Your name, your voice, your influence, all of it is being re-established in divine order. You won't need to chase opportunities, they will find you. What once rejected you will now make room for you, not because of coincidence, but because you were refined in the fire and emerged gold. The beauty of divine reversal is that it requires no announcement. The world will simply begin to notice that you are favored, that things flow differently around you. You won't have to explain it. The fruit of your life will speak louder than any words. That is how God vindicates quietly, perfectly, undeniably. And those who once stood against you, their presence no longer triggers you, because you've risen above their reach. The turning of tables doesn't humiliate them, it humbles them. They will see what grace looks like when it wins calm, generous, and untouched by vengeance. You don't need their apology. You've already received God's approval. You've stepped into the divine paradox, where what was meant to destroy you becomes the reason you thrive. You now walk with the steady confidence of one who knows that no opposition can undo what heaven has ordained. You've seen the full circle of God's justice, slow, deliberate, but always complete. The tables have turned, and you didn't have to force them. You simply remained faithful. Even when no one saw, you stayed gentle. Even when provoked, you kept believing. Even when everything told you not to. And now, the same story that once brought you to your knees is the very testimony that will lift others. So rest now. The war is over, and the balance has shifted. The same ground that held your tears now holds your crown. What once pressed you down now serves as your platform. The tables have turned, and they will never turn back again. You stand where pain once reigned, yet only peace remains. The reversal is complete, not by force, but by grace. Every closed door has become a doorway of glory, and your stillness now speaks louder than any storm ever could. You carry heaven's authority now. You used to pray for permission, asking timidly for doors to open. But that season is gone. You've stepped into the realization that authority was never something to beg for, it was something to awaken within. God did not design you to live begging for scraps of peace, favor, or recognition. He called you to walk in what already belongs to you. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. Authority in the kingdom isn't about control or pride, it's about understanding your position. When you move in obedience, heaven backs your steps. When you speak in faith, the atmosphere responds. You are not speaking into emptiness anymore. You are speaking from the throne room's echo. Once, you waited for signs to confirm your worth, for others to recognize your calling. But heaven has already approved you. The seal has been set. You no longer operate under human validation, because divine authority is your covering. What you carry now is not just faith, it is spiritual jurisdiction. Darkness knows your name, not because you fought louder, but because you stood longer. You've learned that true authority is quiet. It doesn't need to shout, it simply is. The kind that moves mountains doesn't argue with them, it commands them. The kind that restores peace doesn't explain, it radiates. You are carrying that now, the presence that shifts rooms, the calm that silences confusion, the faith that commands alignment. The Apostle Paul reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 6. And God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus. That means you are no longer beneath the weight of circumstances, you are seated above them. You no longer plead from the ground, you decree from the heavens. Your prayers are not cries of desperation but declarations of authority. You don't ask the storm to calm. You tell it to be still because you know the one who commands the winds. This awareness changes everything. You begin to move differently, not as one trying to earn favor, but as one who already carries it. You pray from victory, not for victory. You speak from completion, not confusion. That's why peace surrounds you now. Authority brings clarity. It orders your steps without panic and opens paths without striving. You have authority over fear. Because perfect love lives within you. You have authority over delay. Because time bends to divine purpose. You have authority over confusion. Because wisdom has become your companion. This is the posture of one who walks under heaven's command, not reacting to the world, but revealing it. And when you walk in this kind of authority, everything around you begins to align. People feel your peace before you speak. Opportunities flow toward you instead of being chased. Closed doors begin to unlock, not because you knocked harder, but because your name now carries heaven's endorsement. The same voice that once trembled in doubt now speaks with calm confidence. You've discovered that authority doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means you never fight alone. You've been seated where victory was already declared. You're not climbing toward it, you're standing in it. Every word you speak in faith now carries weight. That's why you must be mindful, because creation listens when you speak. The same mouth that once cried in pain now creates pathways of destiny. That's how powerful your transformation has been. So, walk with humility, but never with hesitation. The crown you carry isn't ornamental, it's functional. It represents the authority to break cycles, to heal, to restore, and to release others into freedom. You have heaven's endorsement stamped upon your spirit, and it cannot be revoked. When you fully embrace this truth, even your silence becomes powerful. You no longer need to prove anything. Your presence itself testifies of God's sovereignty. And every time you choose peace over panic, heaven nods. Because authority looks like quiet mastery. Now, if this word resonates within you, if you feel that holy confirmation stirring in your chest, comment, "I command peace." It's more than words, it's a declaration of your new posture. You are no longer pleading for stability, you are commanding it. And as you do, heaven will recognize the tone, the sound of one who finally knows who they are. When you comment, "I command peace," you're stepping into your rightful place of authority. You're not asking for calm, you're releasing it. Those three words carry divine resonance. They remind both heaven and earth that you have been crowned with dominion. I command peace is a spiritual act, not an emotional plea. It's the language of alignment when you speak it. Storms must listen. It means you're no longer tossed by chaos, but anchored in divine confidence. You're declaring that peace is not around you, but within you, and it overflows to everything connected to you. So write it with conviction. Let heaven hear it. Let the darkness feel it. And let your own heart believe it. I command peace is your signature of authority fulfilled. Recognition in the spirit realm. That's where your name is now spoken, not in whispers of fear, but in echoes of reverence. Heaven knows you. Hell recognizes you. The light you carry has been measured, tested, and confirmed. You have crossed a threshold where your presence shifts atmospheres and your obedience carries weight in unseen places. You are no longer invisible. Your prayers now carry authority. Your words create movement. Angels respond when you speak in alignment with heaven's will. You are not the same soul who once begged to be noticed. You have become a vessel of divine influence. And the spiritual realm honors the strength forged through your endurance. The prophet Daniel once found favor because heaven recognized his devotion, even when the world ignored him. You, too, have walked through fires of obscurity, and God has taken note. You have been authenticated by pain, refined by patience, and approved by obedience. There's something about you now that cannot be counterfeited, a quiet authority that darkness cannot imitate. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 13. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. That is your confirmation. The recognition you've received in the Spirit is permanent. The enemies that once tormented you have been removed from your path. The spiritual authority you now walk in is not temporary hype, it is eternal establishment. You've become a signal in the invisible realm, a lighthouse for lost hearts. Every time you pray, the light you carry cuts through spiritual fog. Every word you speak in faith reverberates through dimensions, shaking chains you may never see break. That is the power of being recognized in heaven. But recognition is not about fame, it's about stewardship. The greater the recognition, the greater the responsibility. You are entrusted with influence, not to dominate, but to serve. True authority looks like compassion, not control. It looks like using your voice to lift others, not to exalt yourself. Your very life is a sermon now. Even your silence preaches hope. You've become a living reminder that God still redeems ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. That's why your presence matters, because it carries an aroma of heaven. People feel peace when you speak, because you've wrestled with storms and now radiate calm. And if this message resonates with you, if it mirrors the journey you've been on, take a moment to let this light travel further. Like this message, not for attention, but as a quiet amen, a way of saying, this truth belongs to me. Every like becomes a candle that joins thousands of others, forming a sky of faith that pushes back darkness. Then, share it, because you never know who is waiting on the other side of your obedience. Sharing isn't about algorithms, it's about alignment. It's passing the torch. When you share truth, you're scattering seeds into souls you may never meet, trusting that God will water them in His time. And if you haven't already, subscribe, not out of routine, but as a spiritual connection point. It's saying, I want to keep walking in this flow of revelation. Each time you return, heaven adds another layer of insight to your journey. Subscription isn't just following, it's staying close to a flame that keeps your own spirit burning bright. Now, if something within you feels a quiet tug, a gentle invitation to give, follow that peace. To donate is to become part of the echo. It's not buying a blessing, it's planting a seed into soil that produces more light. Picture it like this: your gift is a drop of oil poured into a lamp that keeps shining long after your moment ends. Giving is poetry, a sacred exchange where gratitude becomes fuel. It's whispering, keep the flame alive for the next soul who needs to hear what I've just heard. It's not about amount, it's about alignment. Whether your seed is a prayer, a dollar, or a word of encouragement, heaven multiplies it into waves of healing far beyond what eyes can see. But remember, this is never a demand. It's an invitation to participate in something larger, a movement of hearts being reignited with divine truth. You are never pressured to give, you are simply welcome to pour into what has poured into you. Like rivers feeding an ocean, every small contribution joins to create something vast, something eternal. Whether you like, share, subscribe, or give, You're not supporting a person, you're sustaining a mission. A lighthouse of words that keeps guiding others home. And know this, every act of generosity, whether public or hidden, is recorded in heaven's archives. Your kindness doesn't disappear into the air, it becomes light that never fades. So continue walking as one recognized by heaven strong, peaceful, radiant. Let your actions, your faith, and your compassion echo across time. Like, share, subscribe, or give only as your heart desires. Each act, no matter how small, becomes part of heaven's great symphony of redemption, crown of glory, not of ashes. That's what rests upon your spirit now, invisible yet undeniable. You once wore sorrow like a garment, thinking the pain would be your story forever. But the ashes have fallen away, and in their place gleams something radiant, something earned through surrender rather than striving. The glory that rests on you is not borrowed, it was forged in the furnace of loss. You are not the same person who walked into the fire. You went in as one searching for answers, but you came out carrying revelation. Fire does that. It strips away what cannot survive, revealing only what is eternal. The beauty you now carry is not the absence of scars, but the transformation of them. What once marked your pain now testifies of your resurrection. This is what divine restoration looks like, not just having what was lost returned, but receiving something better in its place. Every tear has been translated into strength. Every broken dream has become soil for a greater purpose. You've learned that sometimes God rebuilds not what was, but what was always meant to be. Your crown is not made of gold or jewels. It's woven from moments of obedience, from nights of weeping turned into mornings of worship. It shines, not because of wealth, but because of endurance. It's the light that comes from knowing you've been through darkness and found God there. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. That's your inheritance now, beauty for ashes. You have traded sorrow for strength, despair for praise, confusion for clarity. Where you once stood broken, you now stand crowned. You have not only survived, you have been transformed. The crown upon you is light but powerful. It doesn't weigh you down, it lifts you. It reminds you that glory was never about recognition, it was about reflection. You are a mirror of divine grace, reflecting light into every shadowed place you walk through. You carry heaven's signature humility wrapped in strength, gentleness bound to authority. You've discovered that glory doesn't demand attention. It carries itself with quiet assurance. True glory doesn't boast, it blesses. It doesn't compete, it completes. It doesn't need to shine brighter than others, it simply glows steadily, revealing what God can do with a heart that refused to quit. There's something sacred about walking through humiliation only to emerge radiant. You learn to smile when no one clapped, to stand when no one believed, to shine when the world preferred you dim. That's the essence of the crown. It was never given by people, so it cannot be taken by them. Your past mistakes, your grief, your moments of doubt, all of them have been woven into the fabric of your crown. The thorns that once pierced your soul have been reshaped into gold. Nothing was wasted. Every ache became an ingredient of your beauty. That's what makes this glory different. It's not ornamental, it's redemptive. And now, you carry that redemptive glory everywhere you go. You no longer seek validation because you know who placed the crown on your head. You walk with a softness that doesn't hide your strength, and a confidence that doesn't need to shout. You've become the evidence that resurrection is real. There will be moments when the world tries to hand you old ashes again, old memories, old doubts, old pain. But your spirit will know better. You'll smile and shake off the dust, because ashes no longer belong to you. You've been anointed with the oil of joy, and joy cannot coexist with despair. The beauty of this transformation is that it's contagious. When others see your peace, they begin to believe that healing is possible for them too. You don't have to preach it, you live it. The crown you wear whispers louder than any sermon could shout. You've become a living testimony that ashes can turn into art, that pain can turn into purpose, that loss can give birth to life. Your story now carries fragrance not of smoke, but of sanctity. And when people draw near to you, they sense heaven's weight resting lightly upon your shoulders. So, walk gently with your crown. It's not made to impress, it's made to influence. Let your presence be a sanctuary where others remember that redemption is real. You are no longer defined by the fire that burned you, but by the light that now burns through you. The crown of glory suits you, not because you earned it, but because you were willing to endure for it. And from this day forward, the world will not see ashes when they see you. They will see evidence that grace still turns mourning into majesty. A new assignment awaits you. The season of testing is complete, and the soil beneath your feet has shifted. You can feel it, that quiet sense that something new is being written. The heaviness of the old season no longer clings to you. The wilderness has done its work. Now the horizon opens before you, wide and golden with promise. What once felt like delay now reveals itself as divine timing. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every pause that frustrated you was orchestrated to position you perfectly for what comes next. God has not forgotten you, He has simply been arranging your stage. The unseen preparation is now aligning with visible manifestation. This new assignment won't look like the old one. You are not returning to familiar ground. The patterns, people, and places that shaped your past season were part of your training, but they cannot contain what you carry now. You've outgrown what once held you. There is a weight of purpose on your spirit, a holy urgency, not of panic, but of clarity. You now move with a sense of direction that comes only from refinement. The confusion that once clouded your decisions has lifted. Your heart is steady, your steps ordered. God isn't calling you to rebuild what broke. He's calling you to build what has never been seen. As the prophet Jeremiah wrote in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." That verse isn't just comfort, it's confirmation. Heaven has drafted your next chapter. The plan is alive, breathing, unfolding in perfect rhythm. You don't need to force anything, you only need to follow. You've been promoted in the spirit, though the world hasn't caught up yet. The new assignment may feel unfamiliar, but it will fit you like destiny's garment. You'll recognize it not by ease, but by peace. Peace will be your signal that you're standing exactly where God wants you. Do not be surprised when new faces appear, carrying keys you didn't know you needed. Divine partnerships will form, quickly, effortless connections that feel like they've existed for years. The right people are being drawn to your light. Heaven always aligns helpers to those carrying holy missions. At the same time, some familiar things may fade quietly. Let them. When a seed becomes a tree, it no longer clings to its shell. You are stepping into expansion, and not everyone or everything can fit through that door. Release is not rejection, it's realignment. The new assignment will demand your authenticity. You cannot pretend your way into it. The grace that sustained you before has expired. A new grace has been issued for this new ground. This means you will need to trust your inner knowing more than ever. You will sense when to speak, when to wait, and when to move. Heaven will whisper instructions through peace, not panic. You will notice divine acceleration. What once took years will happen in months. Delays will dissolve, because this time you are no longer wandering. You are walking in rhythm with divine order, and as you move, heaven will make provision appear in unusual ways, resources, favor, and opportunities flowing toward you like rivers drawn to the sea. Do not fear the magnitude of what's ahead. You were not chosen because you are perfect. You were chosen because you are prepared. The fires you've walked through have equipped you with humility and discernment, two qualities essential for sustaining divine success. Remember, this new assignment is not about striving. It's about serving. The doors will open not because you pushed them, but because you carried the right spirit. You are being sent as a carrier of light, a messenger of peace, a voice of restoration. Wherever you go, things will begin to heal simply because you arrived with heaven's presence. This is your commissioning moment. The oil on your life has matured. Heaven trusts you now with influence that won't corrupt you, with visibility that won't distract you, and with blessings that won't dilute your devotion. If this word bears witness within you, if you can feel that divine stirring, that holy readiness, comment 9,999 below. It's not superstition, it's symbolism. It represents completion, giving birth to new creation. When you write it, you're declaring, my wilderness is over, and my assignment begins now. When you comment 9,999, you're not chasing a number, you're sealing a declaration. Those digits symbolize divine transition. What has ended stays ended, and what begins now is holy ground. It's your way of saying, I accept the new chapter heaven has written for me. Writing 9,999 is a prophetic signature. It marks the closing of old cycles and the birth of your new mission. When you type it, imagine doors opening, light spilling into forgotten corners, and angels taking their positions beside you. It's your spiritual handshake with destiny itself, guarding what you've gained. That's the sacred task of this season. You've fought too hard, prayed too long, and grown too deeply to let what you've built slip away through distraction or carelessness. The peace you now carry, the clarity that cost you sleepless nights, must be protected like treasure. It's not fear that drives you to guard it, it's wisdom. You now understand that what is not defended can easily be diluted. Every victory brings with it a new level of stewardship. God doesn't just give blessings, He entrusts them. And the measure of trust heaven places on your life depends on how you handle what's already been placed in your hands. You've been given insight, peace, and authority. Now, the challenge is to sustain them with discernment. Guarding what you've gained doesn't mean living suspiciously. It means knowing the value of your inner sanctuary. The same way a gardener fences a thriving garden to protect its fruit, you must set healthy boundaries around your peace. Not everyone can have access to the soil where your healing has grown. Some were meant to water you. Others were meant to watch you bloom from a distance. You will recognize who belongs by the way they treat your peace. True connections will protect your calm, not challenge it. They will celebrate your growth without feeling threatened by it. You've learned that discernment is not about judging others. It's about recognizing energy. Anything that disturbs your peace is not from God, because divine presence always carries stillness. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 121, verse 7, "The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life." That verse is not a promise of a life free from hardship. It's a guarantee of divine preservation. Even in a chaotic world, God's protection forms an invisible shield around those who walk in obedience. You are not meant to live in fear, but in awareness, a holy attentiveness to what nurtures your spirit and what drains it. You have reached a level of maturity where peace has become your priority. You used to chase excitement, validation, and constant motion, but now you crave simplicity, alignment, and presence. That shift is not weakness, it's wisdom. You have discovered that true strength often hides in restraint, in saying no when your spirit says no, in walking away without explanation, in choosing rest over reaction. Guarding what you've gained also means protecting your focus. Distraction is the enemy's most subtle weapon. It rarely appears as evil, it often masquerades as opportunity. But you have learned to sense the difference. If something pulls you from peace, if it demands that you trade intimacy with God for visibility with people, it's not your path. Your mind, once scattered, has become a temple. Every thought is now a guest that must be evaluated before it's allowed to stay. You no longer entertain worry as casually as before. You recognize that fear is not a visitor, but an invader. You guard your inner home with prayer, gratitude, and awareness, not out of paranoia, but out of reverence for what God is building in you. There will still be voices that try to pull you back into old battles. Memories may whisper, old wounds may ache, familiar patterns may try to reappear. But the difference now is that you know better. You know how to stand still without being stuck. You know how to let the storm pass without opening your door to it. Your peace is not fragile, it is fortified. Every hardship you endured became a brick in the wall that now surrounds your heart with discernment. You are not hard, you are whole. You are not guarded out of pain, but out of purpose. You've learned that preservation is not selfishness, it's strategy. And even as you protect what's sacred, remember that guarding your peace doesn't mean isolation. It means intentional presence. It means you choose your environment wisely, your conversations thoughtfully, and your commitments prayerfully. You no longer move by impulse, but by instruction. You have become deliberate, not distant, but discerning. Guarding what you've gained is how you honor the grace that carried you here. It's how you ensure that the next season builds upon this one. Instead of repeating it, you are no longer the person who leaks blessings through carelessness. You've become the keeper of what heaven has entrusted to you. And that's what maturity looks like, not a crown of pride, but a posture of stewardship. You protect your peace not to hoard it, but to preserve it so it can flow freely to others. Because when your well is full, your overflow can water dry hearts without depleting your own. So, stand, watch over your peace. Not as a soldier guarding a fortress, but as a gardener tending sacred soil. You are not protecting weakness, you are preserving wisdom. And from this day forward, every choice you make will echo that truth. What I've gained, I will guard with grace, not fear. The chosen are never the same again. Once you've tasted the depth of transformation, you cannot return to the shallow. The person you were before no longer fits the person you've become. Change, when it is divine, doesn't just adjust your life, it alters your essence. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You now see differently, speak differently, feel differently. The world that once lured you with noise now feels too small for your spirit. The illusions that once controlled you have lost their grip. You don't chase what you used to crave, because your appetite has changed. You've been rewired by truth, recalibrated by grace, reborn through surrender. Transformation isn't an event, it's a becoming. It doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds layer by layer. Like dawn breaking through the last veil of darkness. You didn't just wake up new, you were sculpted through every prayer, every tear, every hard choice that no one saw. Heaven shaped you in secret until your very heartbeat aligned with purpose. There's a quiet authority that rests on those who have truly transformed. They no longer speak to impress, they speak to impart. They no longer move from reaction, they move from revelation. You've become that kind of soul, steady, rooted, anchored in something eternal. Your transformation has made you immune to imitation. The world can mimic your words, but it cannot reproduce your weight. Your voice carries resonance now because it's been tested in the furnace of authenticity. Every scar has become a seal of credibility, every silence a chapter of revelation. Heaven's hand is visible in your posture. You carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with assurance. You no longer try to prove that you're chosen, you simply walk like it. There is no need to announce what already radiates through your spirit. Those who carry genuine transformation never have to convince anyone. Their presence becomes proof. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16, "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." That's your new assignment now, to live as light, not to argue theology or perform holiness, but to embody it, to be so consistent in peace, so rooted in joy, that people encounter God simply by standing near your calm. You've also learned that transformation costs. You can't hold on to everything and still move forward. You had to lose illusions, let go of control, and die to versions of yourself that could not survive in higher places. The process was painful because you were being stretched between who you were and who you were born to be. But look at you now. You no longer chase validation because you found identity. You don't compete with others because you understand purpose cannot be compared. You walk with humility, not insecurity, with boldness, not pride. You have become a vessel shaped by both mercy and fire. The chosen are never the same again because transformation is irreversible. Once your eyes have seen truth, you can't unsee it. Once your heart has felt divine peace, chaos loses its appeal. Once your soul has been filled with meaning, emptiness no longer satisfies. Even your silence carries weight now. You don't need to defend your growth or explain your peace. Those who misunderstand your calm may think you've changed, and they're right. You have, but not into someone else, into who you always were beneath the noise. There is a loneliness that often accompanies transformation, but it's holy solitude, not isolation. It's the sacred quiet where God teaches you to love without needing to be seen, to serve without being celebrated, to trust without demanding timelines. You've learned that not everyone can walk with you after transformation, and that's okay. You are now both student and teacher, learner and leader. You carry within you the balance of wisdom and wonder. You've learned that growth doesn't make you superior. It makes you responsible for holding light in dark places, for showing compassion where you once sought revenge. Transformation is never about becoming perfect. It's about becoming pure. It's not about gaining more. It's about shedding what was false until only truth remains. And you, chosen one, have become truth embodied. You now walk as living evidence that renewal is real, that grace still works, that restoration is possible for anyone willing to surrender. You have graduated from reaction to revelation, from wounds to wisdom, from striving to stillness. And perhaps the greatest miracle is that you no longer look like what you've survived. The fire refined you, but didn't scar you. The battles broke chains, not your soul. The darkness trained your eyes to recognize light faster than ever before. So now, walk forward with quiet strength. You are a new creation carrying ancient wisdom. Let your presence heal, your words lift, and your silence speak. Because once heaven has transformed a soul, that soul becomes a doorway, and through you, others will find their way home. Your testimony breaks chains for others. The very words that once felt heavy in your throat now flow as healing for those still trapped in silence. You thought your story ended with survival, but heaven had a greater plan. Your scars became scripture. Your endurance became a sermon. You are no longer just a survivor, you are a deliverer in disguise. Each wound you once hid is now a key in someone else's lock. Every time you speak, you don't just tell what happened, you open doors for others to find their way out. The pain that nearly ended you now carries an authority that comforts, a compassion that restores. You've become the bridge between suffering and hope. Your story isn't just yours anymore, it's an instrument of healing. There are souls who will never pick up a Bible, but will read God through you. Your laughter after heartbreak, your peace after chaos, your hope after loss. These are living verses written by grace. As the Apostle Paul wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 4, He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. You've been entrusted with empathy that reaches deep. You don't speak to impress, you speak to heal. Your authenticity pierces through noise. Your vulnerability dismantles shame. And your peace becomes proof that deliverance is possible. There are people watching you now who may never say a word, but who draw courage from your calm. Every time you choose grace over bitterness, they see hope. Every time you forgive, you give them permission to believe again. That's what it means to carry testimony, to live in a way that makes others want to live too. So let your story breathe. Don't hide the ashes, show how they became beauty. Don't silence your past, let it sing of redemption. The world doesn't need perfection, it needs proof that grace still works. And you, chosen one, are that proof. If these words resonate with your spirit, if they reflect the silent battles you fought. Let this message travel further, like this message not for attention, but as a way of saying, I recognize my reflection in these words. Each like is a small light joining thousands of others, forming constellations of shared faith across unseen skies. Then, share this message not as content, but as a seed. Somewhere, someone scrolling in despair might stumble upon your act of faith. Sharing is more than a click. It's a ripple in eternity. It's how light multiplies without force, quietly, beautifully, naturally. Leave a comment if your heart feels moved, maybe a simple word, a thought, or even a quiet, I receive this. Your voice adds another note to this growing chorus of healing. You never know who will read your words and find strength to keep going. Comments are not for noise, they're for connection, echoes of testimony meeting across distances. And if you haven't already, subscribe, not as routine, but as commitment. It's not just following a page, it's choosing to stay close to a voice that reminds you who you are when the world forgets. Every time you return, another piece of truth unfolds. Another layer of peace settles into your spirit. Subscription becomes a rhythm of remembrance, a steady heartbeat that keeps your faith alive. Now, if your heart feels that gentle nudge, that quiet stirring of gratitude, follow it. To give, to donate, to pour a drop of oil into this flame, it's not a transaction, it's participation. Your giving is not about money, it's about meaning. It says, let this light burn a little longer. Let another weary soul find warmth here. Imagine it, every small gift as a lantern hanging on a long path, lighting the way for someone still walking through the dark. That's what your giving does. It turns gratitude into guidance. It transforms private healing into shared hope. But there's no pressure, no demand, only invitation. Every act of generosity, whether a like, a share, a word, or an offering, carries the same fragrance before heaven. Each one says, I believe in light. I believe in redemption. I believe this flame should keep burning. You are not supporting a person, you are joining a movement of mercy. The same grace that found you now flows through you, touching lives you'll never meet. Stories you'll never hear, yet heaven will record them all in your name. So, as your testimony echoes through this space, let your actions match your gratitude. Like, share, comment, subscribe, or give whatever form your yes takes. Let it be sincere. Let it be free. Every gesture, no matter how small, becomes a spark in heaven's great mosaic of light. Because in the end, the purpose of testimony isn't to glorify the survivor, it's to glorify the one who carried them. You are living proof that broken things still sing, that silence can still speak, that light still wins. And through you, the world remembers that love always has the final word. Heaven's celebration over you has begun. You may not hear trumpets or see banners unfurling in the sky, but all of creation knows there is movement in the unseen, a rhythm of joy pulsing through eternity because you made it through what was meant to end you. Every time you chose faith over fear, heaven took notice. Every small yes whispered through tears became a melody in God's ears. And now the song is reaching its crescendo. You have been the battlefield, the prayer, and the miracle all at once. You carried wars inside your heart and still found the strength to love. You walked through silence, yet continued to speak life. That is why heaven celebrates you not for perfection, but for persistence. Angels don't cheer for the flawless, they rejoice for the faithful. Imagine the unseen realm for a moment, the sound of wings, the glow of divine presence, the smile of your Creator as He looks at you and says, "They did it. They kept believing." Every scar is now a badge, every tear a gem in heaven's crown of remembrance. The universe itself bends to honor your endurance. You've become a story. Heaven tells a living parable of grace. Proof that darkness never wins when light refuses to quit. You are no longer the same soul who once questioned your worth. You now stand as a demonstration of divine craftsmanship, someone shaped by love, polished by trial, and revealed in glory. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Zephaniah. Chapter 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In His love, He will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. Heaven is singing over you now. That's not a metaphor, it's a reality in the unseen. The same voice that created galaxies now hums your name in songs of redemption. The melody of grace wraps around you like morning light, and you can feel it, that subtle sense of being held, noticed, celebrated. For a long time, you walked through seasons where it felt like heaven was silent. You prayed and heard nothing. You worshipped and saw no change. But silence is never absence. It was preparation for this moment, the unveiling of divine joy over your endurance. God wasn't ignoring you. He was orchestrating the moment when His celebration would replace your sorrow. The heaviness that once followed you has been lifted. The residue of grief that clung to your spirit is being washed away. You are entering a season where joy will no longer feel unfamiliar. It will sit easily on your soul, like sunlight on skin after years of winter. You will smile without resistance, laugh without fear of loss, and rest without guilt. The celebration over you is also a commissioning. Heaven rejoices not just because you survived, but because you are ready to serve as evidence of God's faithfulness. You have become a carrier of joy, not shallow happiness that fades with circumstance, but sacred joy that flows from knowing you are deeply loved and eternally secure. This celebration is quiet yet infinite. It manifests in moments in the sudden peace you feel when you wake, in the synchronicities that remind you you're guided, in the tears that now come not from pain but from gratitude. Every whisper of joy in your day is heaven's applause echoing through time. You are walking into a season where miracles will not surprise you, they will feel natural, as though the universe has finally aligned with what you've always believed. That's because heaven's favor follows recognition. When you see yourself as chosen, the world begins to treat you as such. Even creation joins this celebration. The wind seems gentler now, the colors brighter, the days longer. Nature recognizes when divine order is restored in one of God's children. You've become part of the rhythm again, no longer wrestling against it, but flowing within it. You are not merely being blessed, you are being honored. Heaven honors those who endure with grace. The celebration is not loud or showy, it's sacred, steady, and eternal. It's found in every door that opens with ease, in every prayer answered before you speak it. In every moment you feel seen without needing to be noticed. So breathe deeply and receive it. You've spent so long fighting that you may not recognize peace as a reward, but it is. This is your divine applause, a season where nothing is missing and nothing is broken. Heaven is smiling. Creation is clapping. And your story has become a hymn of hope. And as you walk forward, remember, the celebration isn't because the journey was easy, but because you never quit walking. Heaven honors endurance, not arrival. You've finished one chapter and stepped into another, a chapter written in light, sealed with joy, and echoed by angels who have been watching all along. You'll never face that again. The battle that once defined you has reached its divine conclusion. The very thing that used to chase you no longer knows your name. The doors that once trapped you have been sealed shut, not by your hand, but by heaven's decree. This is not a temporary reprieve, it is final closure. What was meant to destroy you has been buried in the grave of yesterday. You are standing on the other side of something eternal. The storms that used to break you now bow to your peace. The fear that used to whisper has fallen silent. The heaviness that once wrapped around your chest has loosened its grip. You can breathe again deeply, freely, fully, because you are not fighting for survival anymore. You are living in victory. There was a time you couldn't imagine this feeling, the absence of the old ache, the quietness of your own mind. You had grown so accustomed to warfare that peace felt foreign. But now, as stillness settles around you, your soul begins to remember what safety feels like. This is not the calm before another storm, it is the calm after every storm. You have passed through the valley that few make it out of. You've faced loss, rejection, loneliness, and spiritual battles so deep that words couldn't reach them. And yet, not one of those things had the final word. Grace did. God's mercy has rewritten your ending. You no longer live on defense, you live from deliverance. The ancient words recorded in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 13, still echo today. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. That's your reality now. You will never see them again. Not the fears that haunted you. Not the same heartbreak. Not the same cycles of pain. The enemy's last weapon has been broken. You've been delivered from the loop that tried to convince you that healing wasn't possible. It's a strange sensation when suffering no longer fits you. You may find yourself instinctively preparing for battle, waiting for the next wave of chaos, but none comes. That's because heaven has changed your address. You no longer live in the wilderness, you dwell in promise. You no longer wander in circles, you walk in straight paths. The tests that once repeated have expired. The ground beneath you feels different now, stable, warm, blessed. You walk without the burden of looking over your shoulder. There is no trap waiting, no shadow following. The season of vigilance has ended, replaced by rest. You no longer survive from miracle to miracle, you live from abundance to abundance. And yet, this peace does not make you complacent, it makes you grateful. You appreciate the sunlight because you've known the storm. You value laughter because you've tasted despair. You understand love because you've lived through loss. Gratitude becomes your natural state, not a practice, but a pulse. You'll notice now how life begins to bloom in unexpected places. Where there was once barrenness, new life pushes through. Opportunities align easily. Conversations bring clarity. You no longer have to chase. What belongs to you finds you. That is what divine rest looks like: movement without striving, blessing without exhaustion. You are not the same soul who entered the battle trembling. you have emerged tempered like gold, unshakable and luminous. Your faith no longer wavers with the wind. It moves like a river, steady, deep, and certain. The wounds that once defined you have become windows of compassion, and through them, light pours out for others to see. You'll never face that again, not because life becomes effortless, but because you have changed. The same storms may appear, but they won't recognize you. They will pass by, searching for the person you used to be, and find only peace standing where pain once lived. There is finality in this moment, not an ending of purpose, but of suffering. The lesson is learned, the season complete. You are now in the space between fulfillment and rest, between gratitude and glory. The war within has ceased, and the voice of fear has gone silent. This freedom is not fleeting, it is eternal. It is the kind of peace that becomes inheritance, passed down through your words, your choices, your very presence. You carry stability now, a calm that others will feel when they're near you, a stillness that reminds them that storms do end. Heaven calls this season after the storm, after the struggle, after the breaking, there is life, and you are living it. You are proof that endings can be beautiful when they are written by divine hands. So walk forward lightly, with no trace of yesterday's chains. Let joy rise in quiet waves within you. Let your laughter fill the places where lament once lingered. You'll never face that again, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You have become victory itself, and victory does not return to battle. You've reached the end of the journey, but in truth, it's only the beginning. You've walked through every fire, crossed every storm, and now you stand radiant, renewed, and free. The words you've heard weren't meant just to comfort you. They were meant to remind you of who you are, of how far you've come, and of how deeply heaven believes in you. If this message has breathed peace into your heart, like it. Let that simple act be your way of whispering, I am still standing. Every like is a spark of gratitude, a quiet nod to the miracle of your endurance. Then, share it not for recognition, but as an offering of light. Somewhere, someone is walking through the same valley you once knew. Your act of sharing becomes a lantern in their night, proof that dawn does come. Leave a comment, even a few words, something honest, something from your heart. When you do, you're not adding noise, you're adding testimony. Words written in sincerity ripple through unseen places and reach souls you'll never meet. And if you feel peace tugging at your spirit, stay connected, subscribe, not as a habit, but as an act of remembrance. It's a quiet way of saying, I want to keep walking where the light speaks. Finally, if gratitude moves you to give, donate not out of pressure, but as worship. Picture it as pouring oil into a lamp so the flame keeps burning for those still searching for warmth. Even the smallest drop keeps the light alive. Whatever you choose, like, share, comment, subscribe, or give, do it freely. Do it beautifully. You are part of something sacred, now a circle of hearts reminding the world that grace still speaks, hope still breathes, and love never ends.